My name is Stacey Turner, even though my little Zoom thing says Sharon Farrar. Sharon is a friend of mine. She's actually the one who introduced me to this whole simplifying our nutrition business 23 years ago, which is pretty exciting. And she is enjoying a day with her family, and she asked me to cover for her. She's been doing this presentation twice a day now for like the last 10 days. And if that doesn't show a commitment to getting this message out to as many people as possible, I don't know what is. So I was happy to fill in for her. And we're going to be doing this again tonight. So if you have anyone you want to share with, please have them jump in. But today we're going to be talking about one simple change. And I really love this concept of just one change at a time because we just get overwhelmed with life in so many directions. And I don't know about you guys, but I just feel like there is information coming at me from so many areas, not just person to person, like I feel like it used to be when I was younger. And maybe like you watched news or something, or you read a magazine, but it definitely, I think social media has sped that up. But just a constant process of trying to process that information that's coming in. And my goodness, doesn't it seem like everybody's an expert, right? You look on social media and somebody's sharing this and this and this, and they talk as if their opinion is, in fact, the truth and the fact. And it's hard to sort through. And just even with our busy schedules, it can be difficult to really stay on track. And I don't think most of us, stray from our health on purpose. It's just little by little. And I heard a story this weekend of a sheep named Prickles, and it was a true sheep, a true story of a sheep that lost its way, had not been around its flock for years, and then it was found. And the sheep had so much wool on it because it had not been cared for, and a sheep is not able to shear itself, and it was just weighted down by all of this wool. It was barely able to see, barely able to walk. And I just think, my goodness, this little sheep was in a crisis, right? A health crisis for sure. It was probably impeding all of its life, not sleeping well, not able to move well, and it was starting to affect its health. And thankfully, it found a way back to somebody who was able to shepherd it and shear it and give it back its quality of life. And that wool just started growing a little bit at a time, right? And a little bit of neglect, a little bit of distraction, a little bit of change from routine, adding up day after day, week after week, year after year, really can make a difference from a good health that we're happy with and that we are living and we have vitality, to like this sheep who, yes, was alive, was living, but was definitely not thriving. And so that one change of finding its way, getting some direction, and then being sheared really gave him back his health. And I know sometimes we think of nutrition as way too simple, that it could make that big of a difference and that big of a change in our health, but it was actually what started our health journey 23 years ago. And it was just one change that we made that became the catalyst to make other changes. And I'm excited to share with you some of those changes and then just talk through this with yourself. So I want you to think about this question. When I ask you, who is your primary healthcare provider? What comes to mind? Maybe it's a doctor that you've been seeing for years. Maybe it's somebody new that you've been seeing. If you have to fill that out on a questionnaire at a doctor's office, or if you had to, heaven forbid, go to a hospital, they ask you, who is your primary healthcare provider? And I want us to shift today from thinking that it is somebody else and we think of somebody else's name to putting your own name in there. I am my primary healthcare provider. There's nobody else in my life that cares about my health as much as I do. Think about that. Nobody else is making the daily choices for me. I choose when I go to bed. I choose if I go on a walk. I choose what I eat and if I'm staying hydrated. Like nobody else is making those choices for me. When my kids were little, I was their primary caregiver, right? I was the one that was making those choices for them. I set their bedtime. I made their food. I prepared that for them. And it was a big responsibility that I felt for my family. And I was thankful to have gotten some guidance in this. So often when we hand off our health to somebody else, then that passiveness really can lead to that distraction, that little bit of wool being added over time that takes our health from the place we want to be. So we're going to talk about all those things today, but I just want you to think about that. Who is your primary healthcare provider? And I hope that by the end of this, you'll feel empowered to answer that of, yes, I am that person, because that's definitely the truth. So 1 in 4 of us here in America will die of heart disease. Just heard a story my mom shared with me. A guy in our life, it's like a cousin's husband, 59 years old, just wasn't feeling great, came in. I guess he was going to do a breathing treatment. He sat down. His wife said, I'm going to go take a shower. His son comes in about 15 minutes later and finds his dad that has died at the age of 59. And I think you guys could all fill in somebody's name that you recently know that has died of heart disease, recently been diagnosed with cancer, a friend or family member that has diabetes, and maybe those things are you. Maybe you've personally dealt with that, or like I said, know somebody's very close to you. And even this statistic of 1 in 5 children is obese. A friend of mine, her son, his doctor told her like he is obese at age 8. He's 111 pounds, and you guys, we just really need to do something about that. And we've got to do something about all of these: heart disease, cancer, diabetes, obesity. This is sadly what is true for most an American. We're not talking some people like 1 in 1,000. Look at those numbers: 1 in 4 and 1 in 3, 1 in 5. Like that hits really close to home. And so it is something we need to be paying attention to. A distraction of life can kind of take our focus away, but why are we so unhealthy? I look at this image and I think, okay, that's kind of dramatic. Like who's really eating this every day? That looks sort of like maybe what you would get at a carnival. But if you stop and think about it, if you're older like me, I'm 47, that was maybe foods we ate at a birthday party. Right? Like if you went to a birthday party or a cookout or something, that was definitely not every day. That's a lot of sugar, a lot of processed food. So I think more of today, it would probably look like food that's being passed to the back seat in a brown bag because families are busy. They're going to games and practice and picking up from school. Maybe mom's coming straight from work and she's got to get the kids. They need to eat something. It's easy just to go through the drive-through and grab something. You're at work, you're getting a little bit tired, so you go get a Coke from the vending machine or get some candy to kind of give you a blood sugar pep and wake up. Maybe even just lunch every day out, eating things that aren't the healthiest, but I gotta eat something, I gotta grab something. It definitely takes more time to meal prep and to bring in your lunch and that sort of thing, but it'll also save quite a bit of money, right? So these lifestyle habits, again, that just kind of seep in, they creep in. We don't even recognize sometimes how bad it's gotten until somebody's in this health crisis. But this really can be detrimental to our health. Sometimes people will feel it short term, and that's going to feel like, just not having the energy you want to have during the day. Like I said, that kind of slump after lunch, early afternoon. And our food quality is definitely decreasing because 70% of what we eat is processed. I've heard families say if it's not in a bag, a can, or a package, we don't eat it. And 50%, 50 to 80% less nutrition, even in the produce that we are eating. So these lifestyle habits really can add up pretty quickly. And I've really never heard anyone say, you know what, I've just eaten really well this weekend. I've got to trash my diet this next week. I ate fruits and vegetables. I was exercising. I went for a walk. I got really great sleep and just non-stress weekend. I actually was drinking water, eating that real food. So I'm going to be really intentional this week to trash out my diet and eat as much sugar and processed food as I can. Nobody would say that, right? Because when you're feeling great, when you do all of these things, you do feel good and you don't want to trash your diet. And I don't think anyone ever thinks like, I'm going to trash my diet, but it's just these little decisions that we make that we kind of get used to. We say we're on vacation or it's just a busy time right now. And then the good habits kind of fall away. So, really what that means is we've got to be super intentional. The default is the, distraction and just not the health that we're wanting and the disease process. So we have to be super intentional. And I find that to be the hardest part of it all, right? Is consistently intentional in these different areas. And so just thinking about what can you do to move each day something, getting up and walking from your desk, sleeping 7 to 8 hours at night. I probably need more sleep than even 8 hours. I can get less sleep for a couple of days, but I just don't do good with that long term. And my husband can live off of less sleep than I can, but I just kind of become a bear without it. So managing stress, drinking water, that's definitely something that I struggle with. I have to be intentional by carrying something with me. I have found I definitely do better if it's a cup and it's on ice and it's just refreshing versus just drinking it out of the sink because I'm not standing by the sink the whole day, right? And then eating that real food. And that's what our focus is really going to be today is how do we eat more real food? So real food, what does that mean? Not processed food. Think of like the food that God made versus the food that we make or is in a package, in a box or a can. So when you think about real food, think of what's on the outside, the perimeter of a grocery store. That's a good way to view that. And fruits and vegetables is really a really important part. Clean meats, those things as well. But what's on the outside of that grocery store, not what's in the middle, where's all that processed packaged food is. And why we need to eat all of this real food is because 75% of chronic disease is actually preventable with good nutrition. That's from Dr. William Sears. He's a very well-known pediatrician in America. And I've heard as high as 85% of chronic disease is preventable. So chronic meaning something that people are taking medication day after day, year after year for. So we would maybe think chronic disease would be diabetes. If you follow the standard diabetes protocol, that will become a chronic disease. There, it is not aimed at reversal, but yet diabetes is reversible. Heart disease is reversible. These issues that we think of chronic disease and just kind of accept, well, it's in my family. There's not much I can do. I'll just be living this with this the rest of my life. It's not just preventable, it is reversible. And I've seen that with so many different people with that good nutrition. So, good whole food nutrition from real food as much as possible. So, here's why fruits and vegetables are really able to protect your inside, your cells, your organs. Organs become organ systems. And the bad news is that our bodies are constantly going through this oxidative stress. This is what's causing age and disease. And we're all aging, right? Sadly, it's true. We all have a 100% mortality rate. There's no way to get out of that. But what does that aging process look like? I want to have a lot of life in my years, not just a lot of years with no life. And that's sadly what you're seeing in America as our age increases, like survival age increases, the quality of life is going down during that time. So we're keeping people alive longer, but their quality of life is lower. So we want long years with long life, with good years versus just a lot of years with bad health. So this aging and disease process is happening all of the time. If you're exercising, that is sped up. If you're in a disease process, that is sped up, and it's called oxidative stress. You've probably heard of that. So that word oxidative stress, as you can see, the good news has that same word in there. It's antioxidants. So the fruits and vegetables have antioxidants in there that combat that oxidative stress, and that's what actually protects our cells from this stress. And so, just like this apple shows on the left side, there's that disease process or the aging of that apple. On the right side, that has been they put lemon juice on that side, and that's an antioxidant that protects the aging or slows down that aging process. And that's a great thing to do with your kids to show them what that looks like. So every day, our cells are being hit by this oxidative stress, also known as free radicals, if you've heard of that term before. And so you can see on the bottom there, over time, that cell being hit by that oxidative stress just starts to degenerate, is that the word I'm looking for? Age, if you will. And yet the antioxidants can protect that cell and even help repair that. And so those cells are what replicate over and over again, and you want a good, healthy cell that's normal and healthy to replicate, and that's slowing down that aging and disease process that we're all going through. So when we're talking about how many fruits and vegetables we need to be eating, it's much, much higher than we think. I think we're all familiar with the 5 a day campaign, 5 fruits and veggies every day. And that's a good starting point to aim for 5. And I know, honestly, even I have a hard time with that. When you're thinking about fresh and raw serving, 7 to 13 a day is what we need to be eating as adults every day. So that's half of your plate at every meal with fruits and vegetables, at least half of it, fresh, raw fruits and veggies. And it's not impossible. I know friends who do that, but it definitely takes that intention. So, why do we have to have so many? That seems like a lot. That seems like more than what maybe our ancestors ate for sure, but it's partly because produce is picked before it fully develops. Like I can buy bananas here in the desert of New Mexico, but there aren't banana trees. So they have to be picked from somewhere. And if they picked them when they were ripe, by the time they got to me, they would be nasty. And so it has to be picked early. And when a produce is picked early, it doesn't have all the nutrients in it. When it's left on the vine or the tree, the plant that it's growing on, the last couple of days is actually when it gets the most nutrients. And so picked early just doesn't have as many. It's not fully developed. And then, that transportation, sometimes those are gassed because they have to keep them from getting overripe. And we're just not getting a rainbow of, fruits and veggies. The other day I bought a bunch of roasted veggies and I put them on a baking sheet, and I put the, yellow peppers and then the orange carrots and the red beets and the green broccoli and the like the asparagus. And I had it all on the sheet broken down, and it was so pretty. It was so vibrant. And I was like, I just love that. But it was a lot of work, right, to chop all those fruits and veggies. But I loved knowing I got the rainbow. And then we went to a friend's house, and for dessert, she served berries. So it was purple berries and those dark colors and strawberries. And that's what we want to aim for every day, eating as many colors as we possibly can, because we kind of tend to eat the same 5 over and over again. And especially with kids, if there's any picky eaters, we know what everyone's going to eat. We tend to serve them the fruits and vegetables that we prefer ourselves, and it kind of can get us stuck in a rut. So I want you to be thinking when you go to the store, shop the veggie aisle first and think, okay, how many colors can I put in this cart? And then start to build those into the meals. How many colors can we get on our plate at each meal? And see if that helps you guys, because 90% of us are failing to meet this daily serving content of 7 to 13. That's what we're needing to prevent disease, not to just be alive, right? Like none of us are. Okay, very few of us are eating 7 to 13 and we're still alive. But when we're talking about preventing those massive destructive diseases, that's where it really needs to be bumped up much, much higher. So a lot of times people know that they're not eating enough fruits and veggies, and so they tend to rely on a multivitamin to bridge that gap. And, a lot of times if you go to the doctor, they ask you, are you taking a multivitamin? They don't necessarily ask you how many fruits and veggies are you eating every day, which is interesting interesting because when you look at the huge body of research out there, there's so much evidence that taking multivitamins do not reverse disease. They're not preventing heart disease, cancer, diabetes, those really big ones, stroke that we're trying to prevent. Now, it might fill in a nutritional gap if one is there, but we're not seeing disease prevention. And actually, the research shows that those multivitamins, those isolated chemical nutrients, can actually be detrimental to your health. Your body can store those chemical vitamins because they're chemical rendition of a nutrient found in fruits and vegetables. Your body can actually store it and become toxic. Every time you take a multivitamin, it's got your body has to decide, what do I do with these chemicals? Do I use them? Do I store them? Do I toss them? What do I do with it? And oftentimes it doesn't know because it's not in a natural form and not in a way that your body's able to utilize. And if you think about a multivitamin bottle, it has a cap on it that prevents kids from getting into it because they can overdose on them. You don't just take more vitamins all day if you're not feeling well. You wouldn't take 7 to 9 of those vitamin pills. Although, if you do start going down that multivitamin track, you can get, a multivitamin or a vitamin that's a vitamin E. And then you hear about this vitamin, that vitamin, this one. And you can end up with this whole handful of pills that you're taking each day, hoping that your body knows what to do with it and that you're actually doing good. But if you dig into that research behind it, it just really doesn't show it. And then also look at the research on each of those bottles that you're taking from that company. What is there evidence that shows that there's those nutrients are getting into your bloodstream and your body's able to use it and do its job, and that you're seeing that disease reversal process? Because when we're eating fruits and veggies, go back and do the research on fruits and vegetables. Like every major disease, if you look it up and like ask Google, Chat GPT, even the brochure from, let's say, American Heart Association, any of those, they're going to say to increase your fruit and vegetable intake. It doesn't say increase your multivitamins. So why? What's the difference? I took a vitamin, especially a prenatal vitamin. I never really thought about where those nutrients were coming from in that. I just took it because the doctor said so. But if you look at that little pill, think about that pill. It's a multivitamin or prenatal vitamin. Where are those nutrients coming from? Compare that to an apple. An apple has over 11,000 nutrients just in one apple alone. Those have been phytochemicals, vitamins, minerals, like plant compounds that have been found and named. So just a visual for you, if one of these beads represents one of the nutrients, this is how many is in an apple. That's wild, right? Like that I can wrap my mind around, and your body knows what to do with that. We say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Maybe there's some truth to that for sure. And so I just want you to rethink multivitamins and understand the really compounding protective benefit of those fruits and vegetables. And it's just your body knows what to do with it. It doesn't have to try to figure it out. And it's because it's in much, much smaller doses. That's 5 milligrams or micrograms of vitamin C in an apple versus 1,500 in a multivitamin. They have to mega dose it because you only absorb such a small percentage of that chemical rendition. So always better to get your nutrients from a fruit or vegetable. But when we're talking about that 9 to 13 servings every day, that's difficult, right? That's why people tend to rely on a multivitamin to try to bridge that gap. But that's where I was 23 years ago. I was doing the best that I could. And my son was about a year old, and he had gotten really picky. Guys, like he's a little guy and he's now only eating canned green beans is the only veggie I could get him to eat. He would do better with fruit. But I was like, how has this happened so quickly, right? And a friend of mine had recommended this book to me, and it's Super Baby Food book. And I remember I was reading through it, and I was interested in this. But here's what happened. I got so overwhelmed by this book. I mean, that's a thick book, right? Of how I was supposed to be feeding him. And I remember the point of like, Okay, I'm done when it talked about washing all of the cans of fruits and vegetables of any food that comes into your house. And I was just like, I can't do this. And I remember tossing the book aside and I thought, I'll just do the best I can, right? And I was trying to do the best I could with the knowledge that I had at that time. So I found this book the other day and I bought it because I was like, this is kind of the one that really started me thinking that way. And I just was overwhelmed with options. And I get that. I understand what that is like as a young mom, as a busy mom. 23 years, we've had all these different phases with our kids and, in my own life. And we were young. I was 24, my husband was 27. If you asked us if we were healthy, I would have said yes. But the truth is, my husband had had pneumonia 4 years in a row before this, 4 years, at least once, most of the time twice. Was on antibiotic after antibiotic that just wreaked havoc on his gut system and then, of course, trashed his immune system. So it was this ugly cycle of illness with him. He would bring home to our son. My son had become that picky eater, but he also had a rash on his face I couldn't get rid of. And he spit up a lot as a baby. I was concerned about their health. I wasn't as sick as they were, but I was tired. I was tired a lot. And as a child, I had had strep throat over and over again. And so I was looking for solutions, right? It's why I bought this book. I wanted to do better. I just didn't know, and I was looking for direction. Well, one day I went to this trade show. We lived in South Florida, and Sharon Farrar, so that's her name on this. I'm using her Zoom line. I'm Stacey, but Sharon Farrar introduced me to fruits and vegetables in a capsule, and the company's name was Juice Plus. I walked up to her table, and we just connected as moms, and she told me that this company found a way to put fruits and vegetables into these capsules. And I was like, no way. If that's true, that would be easy because I could open these capsules into Colin's food. I could put it into his sippy cup. My husband could take this. Like, this made sense to me, this whole food concept. And I was like, okay, I get that. And she showed me, I think at that time on the table, they had these cups that had cherries in it and an apple and a beets and peach. And she was just like, do you eat this every day? And I was like, no, and I cannot get my son to eat this. Like, there's no way he would. And so I really like fell in love with the simple side of this. I understood fruits and vegetables, not even to the extent that I do now. I didn't understand I just didn't know that there was disease prevention in fruits and veggies. But she gave me a cassette tape at that time, sent me home to listen to it. I eventually did, and thankfully she was really great at following up with me because I just didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't want to fall for something. I didn't want to come back and be like, "Oh my gosh, 2 months later, I can't believe I bought fruits and vegetables in a capsule." Like I just kind of remember thinking that, and I just wasn't sure. I didn't know her. Like we didn't have that relationship. I had just met her at this booth, and honestly, I just kind of felt like I don't want to be sold to. I had a lot of friends that had different companies that different things. And I was just a little bit concerned about that. I just didn't know what I didn't know, right? And so I talked with my husband, and he was like, no way, vitamins don't work. We're not going to spend money on vitamins. So, guys, she mailed us a VHS tape, and we watched that together. And then Jarrett was like, oh, I get it. It is the fruits and vegetables themselves. And so we started taking Juice Plus, and within a couple of weeks, I noticed I wasn't having to take a nap every afternoon. I was going to the bathroom regularly, which I didn't even know was an issue, right? That was one thing like that sheep's wool that had compounded over time. I didn't even realize that constipation was something I was struggling with until I was regular. And then it was like, oh, that's what that stomach pain has been that I've had like my whole life. I stopped getting canker sores, over time as my immune system got stronger. And over time, we saw Jarrett's immune system strengthen as well to where it's been 22, 23 years and he's never even had an upper respiratory infection. Again, like that is crazy good. And it really started with this one simple change. We started with the fruit and veggie capsules, and then pretty soon we added the berries and grapes. And then later, when they introduced the omegas, which is an all plant-based omega, we incorporated that as well. So this is something we take every single day. And it was really simple and it was easy to incorporate, which kept us consistent all of these years later because it wasn't difficult. Like I wasn't having to juice all of these fruits and veggies, right? That's hard. That's difficult to stay consistent with, but this has been pretty easy. And so just thankful somebody shared this with me. It was a complete stranger, and that my 24-year-old self somehow knew to say yes. Like we were really thinking our 40-year-old selves are going to thank us for this. And that is absolutely true at 47. This changed how I fed my family. You know, how I raised my kids. I used Juice Plus as my prenatal with two of my next two kids, and I've taken them to the doctor two or three times in their whole life. They're all moved out of the house. They're married. We have one grandchild now, and my daughter-in-law used Juice Plus as part of her prenatal as well. And it was just really awesome to see this disease reversal in one generation through nutrition. And then this became the catalyst for us to start making other changes. And again, it's just with a grateful heart that I share this with you guys. I love that Juice Plus is simply plants. They partner with family farmers, so they grow specifically for us. These fruits and vegetables are harvested at peak ripeness. It's quickly frozen to prevent that loss of nutrients. They pulverize the produce and then it's dried at a really low temperature, which removes the water, neutralizes the sugar, and then that powder is put into these capsules. Or you can do chewables, which is in that like child's hand there, chewables. And then also we have a superfood powder, which is mixed into water, and it's the same fruit, veggie, and berry powders. So it's a food, it's not a multivitamin. It's NSF certified, which means third party approved to make sure no contaminants and like what's on the label is actually in the capsules and vice versa. And it's the most researched nutritional product in the whole world. We have 48 clinical studies that have been printed on Juice Plus since 1993, which is unheard of. And if you like research, dig into that because that's what eventually helped me understand I'm not going to regret this 2 months later because it's not a crazy concept of being able to dehydrate and concentrate plant powders. And it's got research behind it actually showing it's worth the investment because it's investing in me. And at that time, there were 7 studies. Now we have 48 studies. And it's really, really incredible. And those same powders, like I said, are these superfood powders that are put into this drink mix. So it's just what's easier for you to swallow the capsules, eat the gummies, or drink it in a stick mix. If somebody hates swallowing capsules, this is an excellent option. And it's also really fun for kids. My great niece comes over. She likes to stir it up herself with this little whisk, and then we pour it into this little cup, and she's drinking her juice. She's great. We started opening the capsule into her mouth. She just straight up wants the powder, and then now she just chews the whole capsule. And so I love that it can be from little kids to my elderly grandma that started taking Juice Plus at age 90 because she was getting UTIs. It's for the whole family, no matter what age that is. And I just really love that. The other thing about these superfood powders is it won't break a fast. So it's keto friendly as well as the capsules too. So this research has really been conducted at leading universities around the whole world in different hospitals and research centers. You can look at that list and maybe you recognize some of those, but they're like really well known. Nemours Children's Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, we were just there and I drove by and I was like, hey, that's where our study was done with overweight boys, and these were pre-diabetic kids. So just really like if you love research, dig into that because you're going to love that side of it. And this is just a slide that's showing from 2 to 10 hours after taking Juice Plus what changes, and it has, you know, 7 to 28 days, 2 weeks, 80 days, all the way to 10 years. This is what this research has shown. And I wish I had more time to go over this with you guys, but we've got lots of great videos that we can share that will give you some more information on that as well. And then Healthy Starts for Families is a program that we have where kids age 4 all the way until they turn 26, so through 25, actually get their Juice Plus free with an adult order. So all 3 of our kids are still getting their Juice Plus for free. They're 20, 22, and 24 right now. And so I sponsor one, my husband sponsors one, and then my mom sponsors the other one. So they've had Juice Plus pretty much free for their whole life. So that's pretty incredible. And this is what the research that we have done on 4 million kids and adults. $700 million donated from this company because they know moms are not going to do for their kids for themselves first. They're going to do for their kids first. And they know families get healthy when the whole family is on board. And especially mama, we set the tone for that. And so we set the tone for the family. We're the ones buying the food, all of that side of things. So look at those stats. 71% of these families were consuming less fast food and soft drinks after being on Juice Plus for 1 year. They're eating more fruits and vegetables. They're visiting the doctor less. They're missing less days of school, taking less medications. I mean, I don't know of any parent that would say, nah, I'm not concerned about any of that. None of that interests me. Like this is all the things we're hoping for our families, and this is what has been shown with 4 million kids and adults through the years. So it's really phenomenal. Last, I want to share with you just a couple of other options that we have. Juice Plus Super Biome. We know that all of our good health starts in the gut, and a lot of people have gut issues. I have an excellent recording that we can send to you by Dr. Tamara Sachs, and she's talking about the brain and gut connection. Excellent. She goes over more about this product, but it's a time-released probiotic, so it opens further down the line so that it's not opening in your stomach where the stomach acid would kill the live good bacteria. And then this is a prebiotic fiber that you mix with water that helps to feed the good guys. So it's really a great combo there. And then the shakes has been a part of our life forever. Complete shakes, it comes in chocolate or vanilla. So we use just like a blender, and we love chocolate and peanut butter, banana, and ice with almond milk in this one. And then this vanilla is really good with the superfood powders. I don't know if you guys have tried that, just with ice and water. So no, and maybe like some frozen strawberries if you want, but no almond milk. So it's more of like a slushy, if you will, than a smoothie. It's not as creamy that way. And again, kids love it in their own little cup. But this was part of our breakfast every day. It was an excellent source of protein and an excellent source of fiber. And I often just drop my capsules right into it when I blend it up and make it. We still really enjoy this. It's got a nice creamy texture to it, and it's just a much easier way that I could get. Like I think there's 25 more plant foods in there. So it was a great way to start that day. And if you're looking for a healthier alternative for an energy drink, this brain boosting energy drink called Luminate is an excellent option. This has ashwagandha in it, some of the healthier mushrooms for our brains, and it has coffee berry, so it's not a jittery caffeine. But my husband says that this makes him happy when he drinks it. And I noticed like he started drinking it, but I didn't put it together. But I just noticed his countenance. He was just happier. And then he came home from work one day. It was about 2 weeks of consistently drinking it. And he said, I'm happy. Like this Luminate like makes me happy. And I have another friend, her husband calls it his happy juice. So it really helps to elevate that mood. And it's only 2 grams of natural sugar. So half of the price of you're going to pay for an energy drink. And it's actually helping with like memory retention and focus and that sort of thing. So if you're looking for something like this is an excellent option. I think it's like $2.50. The shakes are I forget even prices on this because I mean, we're talking dollars a serving, right? Like what meal could you get for, I think it's like 253 for a shake meal. And the capsules, fruit, veggie, and berry capsules are like $80 a month. And then one of the kids gets theirs for free. So totally doable and very affordable, which I think is one of the reasons why we've been able to keep it into our diet. I forgot this slide is on here. Yeah, 267 a day. Like where can you get anything for under $3? If I send you to Walmart with even $5, how much produce could you come back with? So the quad is fruit, veggie, berries, and the omegas at 375. And I mean, what do we spend on even just 1 cup of coffee, right? And then again, it's free for kids. They get their fruits and veggies in a capsule form or in these gummies for free for as long as you're taking your Juice Plus as well. So I really think of Juice Plus as a gift. It's been gifted to me all of those years ago, and I get to gift that back to other people that I have in my life and in conversations. You know, I just don't know anybody really that's able to keep up with getting enough fruits and vegetables. We overcomplicate health, and so I think we just kind of shut down. And then, like I said, we end up on a path that we didn't even expect. And sometimes it's not until people have this massive health crisis that they wake up and decide they're going to do something. So I just encourage you, don't wait. Like, this really is a simple first step that can become the catalyst for you over time for your whole family and is proven to have such a strong benefit. So I hope you guys found this information helpful. I hope you're thinking about other things, of other people you could share this with, and just know that we're in this together. This is a company that is highly based on education, and we do health talks like this very often. Many people very much smarter than me that have a whole other wheelhouse of educational resources do these health talks as well. And so if there's something in particular you want information on, reach back out to us because we want to help direct you to that. And then join me again tonight. If there is someone you're thinking of that you're like, ah, I wish my mom knew this. I mean, that was the first thing I started thinking about. My parents need to know about this. And I didn't even mention to you guys, my parents have been on Juice Plus as long as we have. They're in their 70s and on no medication. That's sort of unheard of, right? Sort of unheard of, but it's because they also have made these changes along the way, and this is what we started with. And so come back and join us tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, so 7 Mountain Time is where I'm at. Bring someone back on here with you if you've got a spouse that's going to have questions, just like my husband had questions about this. Even though I was excited, we had to make this decision together. So I'm going to stop the recording here, and you guys tell me if you have any questions. And thanks for joining us.